3, 2, 1,
blast!
And her dad went all the way to Australia.
Hot balloon, hot balloon.
This is going to be the most exciting night of my life.
I'm Laura Aikman, and this is A Rainy Day by Billy T. A posh man looked at the window as the rain flowed down the glass. He wondered if somewhere in the world the drops resembled someone. If the ones that went slower felt slower, and the ones that went faster were faster. He went to his carved wood cupboard and grabbed a cup. He filled the cup with water and went outside and poured the water on the window. He watched how the water helped the drops go faster, and suddenly the homeless lady who sits on the side of the road stood up and walked towards the business centre. That's strange, the man thought to himself. Then the homeless lady came out wearing a suit and carrying a briefcase. That's peculiar, the man thought to himself. He went back into his house, into the kitchen, and filled up the cup again. He went outside and did the same again, but nothing happened. Just a coincidence, the man muttered to himself. He went back inside, sat back into his armchair and turned the TV on. The news started to explain that a poor group of people decided to make and sell hot chocolate so that they could afford better homes for them and their families. And they'd managed to make so much money that they had over £200 left, and they donated every last penny of the extra money to charity. The man sat up in his seat, thinking about if it was possible. No, don't be absurd, the man said, talking and shaking his head. But then he thought about it even more. Could this be a coincidence every time? That's when an idea sparked in his head. He went up to his attic, picked up a big pane of glass and some wood. He went outside and began to build a frame. He fitted the glass into it and waited for drops to land on the glass. And as planned, the drops started to land on it. He got a big basin of water and poured it on the glass. The postman walked round the corner. He usually had his head down, but today he was practicing skipping along the pavement. "Hello," the man said in a nice cheery voice. "I've got your newspaper here," the postman said. "Oh, thank you," the posh man replied. Days later, the news had spread that the man had helped people just by pouring some water on a pane of glass. But there was just one problem. No one believed him. People had been at his door claiming that he would be better in an elderly home, but he denied all of them. The crazy voices man. Even the Prime Minister was delivering a speech about this man, so the day had come when the speech was going to be said. The Prime Minister stood up to the podium, but before he could speak, a voice was heard from the back. "Wait!" The man stepped up from the stage. "I know you all think I'm crazy, but it's not just me that can pour water on a window. Anyone can do that. Anyone can help anyone."
Hello, I'm Simon Bird, and today I'm reading Bad Boy Was Speeding Down First Street by Francis H. Bad Boy was speeding down First Street in his newly stolen Mini Ferrari, with the police right on his tail and the Bad Boys theme song playing full blast. Bad Boy got his name for literally being a bad boy. Bad Boy is a doggo, and his real name is actually Finn. Bad Boy, the leader of the roughest dog gang in NYC. The police were still chasing him. They were gaining on him when suddenly a huge truck started driving across the intersection. In a split second, Bad Boy drifted his car right under the truck. He looked behind and saw all 15 police cars crash into the truck, making a huge explosion behind him. The next day, Bad Boy met up with his gang in their secret hideout to plot his master plan, to break into the bank. Bad Boy started to plan. Chunk Squad, you take the helicopter and nuke the place, said Bad Boy. On it, said Sergeant Chunk. SWAT team Doggo, we'll split up. Sergeant Doggo, you'll take a team around the back, said Bad Boy. Hamish, you'll be in our tank. Sergeant Midget, you rush him from the floor, and I'll be on top of Hamish with the minigun. Then we should be able to break into the vault with the scissors, and then we'll escape down the sewers. The next day, Bad Boy and the squad were speeding down 1263rd Street on their way to the bank. The Chunk Squad were already in the helicopters heading to the drop spot, the bank. They arrived. Bad Boy radioed Sergeant Chunk. Go for lunch. OK, boys, let's do this, said Sergeant Chunk as they fell out of the helicopter, because they can't jump. Suddenly, the bank exploded in front of Bad Boy. Charge, he said. Hamish crashed through the bank doors. Bank Boy was on top, getting the minigun ready as they crashed through. He saw the look on the guards' faces. He chuckled as all 20 guards collapsed on the floor as the minigun cooled down. Clear, shouted Sergeant Doggo. OK, we need to be quick. Someone could have called the cops by now, said Bad Boy. Hamish waddled over to the vault and started twisting it open. A few seconds later, the vault door burst open and all the dogs' eyes were hypnotised by the amount of money and gold there was. Imagine how much food we could buy, said Gerald from the Chunk Squad. OK, grab it. We need to go, shouted Bad Boy as sirens started in the distance. Down here, shouted Hamish, holding a sewer door open. Quick, quick, quick! The sewer door slammed shut and they were gone without a trace. The end. Wow, what a thrill ride. Thank you so much to Francis H. And I can't wait to read more from Quick, Bring the Cheesemobile, written by pupils at Leith Academy. Congratulations again to Francis and to all the Superpower Agency authors.
One Day in 2013 by Bailey. One day in 2013, Millie's grandma was on her way to B&Q to buy a new plant. While she was walking to B&Q, Millie's grandma heard a strange noise in an alleyway. Grandma was curious, so she went into the alleyway to see what was making that strange noise. She saw a small man. The weird man started talking to her. He asked Grandma if she would like to buy a plant, but this was no ordinary plant, he said. Grandma thought that it was a nice-looking plant, and B&Q was another 2 blocks away, so she took it. Millie came home from school and saw the small, spiky plant Grandma had bought when she was at school. That's a cool plant, Millie said. I know, said Grandma. At dinner, Grandma was making hot dogs for Millie and pasta for herself. Grandma finished her dinner and went into the living room, while Millie finished her dinner in the kitchen. She went to the toilet, and when she came back, all of her food was gone. Millie thought it was just Grandma's dog, Toto, so she gave Toto a rowl and went to bed. The next morning, Millie went to feed Toto, but he wasn't in his doggy bed. He must be in Grandma's room, she thought. She went to feed the plant and saw it had grown a little, and it had what looked like Toto's fluff on it. But Millie knew a small plant couldn't have eaten a dog. Millie left for school, and Grandma woke and went down to the kitchen to get breakfast, and saw her now not so small plant eating the wooden table. She screamed and ran to her room to get her phone and call Millie. Millie rushed home and saw the now giant plant about to eat Grandma, so she ran and pushed Grandma out of the way. Grandma went to get plant killer. She poured it all over the plant, and it slowly started to melt until it was completely gone. Millie and Grandma celebrated, but little did they know, it wasn't actually dead. Dun dun dun.
Homeless child finds a picture frame by Hamlet Z. B. Homeless child finds a picture frame and it's in perfect condition, so he uses it for a picture that he has from when his mum and dad were alive. D. getting ugly and then going to the doctor. The doctor is the person who made that picture frame. E. Somehow it gets passed on from generation to generation. Thomas is a homeless child living in the bins of New Orleans and gets a visit from a trash bag. The trash bag is heavy with some sharp edges here and there. He rips the bag and discovers a handful of gold coins and a picture frame. Yet he finds out that the gold coins are actually chocolate coins. Suddenly he dies of starvation.
The Day Had Just Begun by Ben B. The day had just begun and I had already made breakfast, had a shower and got dressed. I then went to do my daily chores. I knew it would take a long time. Later that afternoon, I went to get to know the neighbourhood. Whilst I was getting ready, I found the old picture. It was me, my old home. Something I didn't understand was who took it. I walked out eager to meet my new neighbours. I walked up to the surface and instantly, as if they knew I was coming, they screamed. It was so loud that the ground shook below me. I ignored them and continued with my task. As I walked further into the city, people became more aware that I was different. Cars started speeding and crashing. People gasped. But I knew they were jealous, that they didn't have web feet like me. As I walked down the street, I found a supermarket and walked inside. I then walked down every aisle looking for one thing. Tuna sandwiches. Any type of tuna. I went to the checkout. The worker was shocked but still served me. The slimy sandwich had put her off, I think. That evening, I walked home thinking, I'll get used to the neighbourhood. The next day I went to the zoo and then in the house of small animals I saw my cousin Lucas. He was being kept in a small glass tank. Then from out behind the mosque came Mum and Dad. No! I screamed and punched straight through the glass and freed my family of frogs.
Bob the Builder by Lewis L. I went to Tesco one day to get my dinner, pizza. I was walking past a construction site when a man popped out of the ground holding two signs that said, I'm Bob the Builder and I'm like him. I was terrified, so I started speed walking, but I heard something underneath me. Then I started running, but my milk fell out of my very cool Tesco bag, so I went back to pick it up. But guess who popped out and took it? Bob. He also took my tea bag and my kettle with boiling hot water in it. Don't ask how or why. Then he went back underground. I'd spent £2 on those tea bags, but back to the story. There was a hole in the ground, so I went in and chased Bob, but I lost him because there were so many tunnels. I thought I was going to die, but then Bob came and led me out of the tunnel. He put me on a crane and then pushed me off. I woke up in my bed, sweating. Must have been a dream, but now I was late for school. After school, I saw him again, with his blue clay cat. He followed me, so I started running again. Then I got to my house and waited a few hours. He sunk back underground and I went to sleep. During the night, I heard noises, but I just kept my eyes closed. In the morning, I woke up at school, but there were no windows and all the doors were bolted. I was there for a week before I realised that I was stuck in school forever.
Hello, I'm Shaun Keaveny from Six Music and I'm reading from the chapbook Quick, Bring the Cheesemobile and Other Small Stories by S1 pupils at Leith Academy. The Plot of Little Chunk by Ben H. I'm on the way to doggy daycare with my mum and my dog Hamish in the boot of the car. He's not very happy about going to daycare. Once we got there, we walked through the door and the staff welcomed us. What we didn't know was that Hamish was plotting revenge on us for leaving him there. First he went for his treatment, then once he was out, he took a huge running jump into the pool. Then he began to tell his friends his master plan. He started to sneak up on the cupboard. His friends got into position, then he gave the nod to go. His friends started to distract the staff. Hamish was sneaking down the corridor to the control room. He took out the guards, then stole the keys to the cupboard. The staff were losing interest in the dogs and they were walking towards the control room. Hamish walked out and heard the staff getting closer and closer. He dashed to the store cupboard quickly and unlocked the cupboard, opened the door, got in and shut it. The staff were walking past the cupboard and noticed that the keys were in the lock, so they opened the door and a huge tsunami of food filled the whole daycare centre. So the dogs had to eat their way out. All the dogs and the staff that were left were standing outside the daycare when my mum got out of her car. Then she snapped her fingers. Hamish, the little chunk, plods over to Mum and sits on her feet. He crushed a toe and she screamed with pain and got rushed to hospital. My dad and I went to the hospital to see if she was okay. Mum said she was, so we said to her, "There's someone who wants to say sorry." Then Hamish burst through the door, jumped on the hospital bed and lay down on her. He ended up breaking her ribs this time. So we took Hamish home and put him straight on the treadmill, but at first he flew off the back, so we made it slower. But then we made it faster and faster and faster, and he lost a lot of weight. Then we made him swim along Portobello Seaside before taking him back to the hospital to see Mum. But Mum was too scared to see him.